Hello and welcome to Intuitive Insights. I am your host, Megan McDonough. I am an intuitive guide, an artist, a mom, a liver of life, all the things. This is a podcast where I share universal intuitive messages that hopefully you can use for you in your life, and also want and hope that we can expand our woo-woo threshold together on this journey of life. So, here is this month's message. All right, you guys, I have to admit I recorded this. I published this episode, and at the beginning of the original episode that I recorded, which was yesterday, when Mercury went into retrograde yesterday, and I had such a yummy, lovely feeling about the new moon, and Mercury retrograde was not getting me down, though I was prepared for some technological glitches. So this is now the second time I am recording this because the first time came out, so I have no idea what happened, but it sounded horrid. So for those of you who have already listened, I'm sorry. And for those of you who are now listening, welcome. Here we go. Your soul signed up for this journey. I kind of look at the soul like it has two parts. There are two versions of your soul at all times. The guide, which is the one with the roadmap, and the guide with the roadmap knows which direction it wants you to go on this journey in this lifetime. The lessons it wants you to learn, to round out your soul on this level of life, like it's a video game, analogy that we'll come to in a moment. But there's the guide, and then there's also the explorer or the guided or the journeyman who is also on the path. And they're trying to find the lessons or make sense of the lessons that they've been given in this life, accomplish the lessons that they've been handed in this life that the soul guide has put forth for them. So basically there is the part of your soul that has this journey all planned out, like a lesson plan ahead of time. And then, like the teacher, let's say, and then there's the part of the soul that's the student, that's going through the lessons of the lesson plan. It is now the last month of the year, right? December 13th today was the 12th when I originally started this, and yesterday we had the new moon, we had Mercury in retrograde. And this new moon does feel positive, despite, it was very positive yesterday, but despite my technological difficulties, there's a lot of positivity in this new moon energy. I don't know if you can feel it or not. There feels like there's a lot of stuff to come. I think that's probably natural with any holiday season, end of year into new year. But what I'm being called to ask myself and then also share with you is to just take some time now before all the chaos of the end of the year or the holidays. Some of you are already knee-deep in holidays already. Happy Hanukkah. And to all the other religions that are already in the midst of celebration. But just taking some time to thank you, Mercury retrograde, reflect, revisit, revise, all the re's. What do you want to renew? What do you want to regenerate? And it feels like this perfect time at the end of the year to sit back and say, like, what did I accomplish this year? What goals did I set? And then which goals did I meet? What paths did I go down, and which ones did I take a hard right or follow through or abort completely. You know, what was this chapter of my life about? And then just take some time to review it. Observe it. Take it in. The image for this message came from a reading. And I'll get a little bit more into it and its meaning, and the meaning behind it later. But the image is of a kite soaring high. And all you can see is the strings of the kite. And the strings are anchored into this magical, beautiful world. And the beautiful world is only for the person who I was reading it for. So it would be for you, if you're imagining this or you're seeing the picture. And whatever magical space you go into in your mind that brings you comfort or joy or peace or exhilaration or curiosity or hope. And anchoring into that so that you can fully enjoy it and fly high. Even shifting your perspective from the heights of the kite down into the world that you've created and trusting it and letting yourself fly. So getting back to the metaphor of the two souls, of the guide and the guided, or the teacher and the student, or the explorer and the guide. Some of us come here into this lifetime with a clear understanding of the adventure that lies ahead of us. What the job is, what we're supposed to do, our goals, our lessons. And they kind of come in with this like laser focus. Others of us come into the world with a kind of confusion and a bewilderment by all the opportunities that are presented as challenges in our lives. And then some of them are like a laser focus. And then some of them are people who are just unaware that it's a quest at all, you know? They're so immersed into the fabric of this 3D living. And some of us, there's no comprehension that there is a guide or a part of the soul that wants to guide you towards something specific or general in this lifetime. There's this term that's been going around a lot called the spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening. I don't know if you've heard it or not. I mean, if you're listening to this, odds are you probably have. You're probably in the algorithm of people who are, spiritually curious. But if you're getting, I'm getting a lot of these messages about spiritual awakenings, or it's popping up in my feed a lot. And, it's like, a spiritual wake-up call, which is not too dissimilar from the idea of being woke, which now has gotten tainted with a lot of opinions. But basically what I feel like it's just being more aware. And, having a wider perspective on awareness. I feel like the term woke is a positive term for awareness that has become a tool for separation and not love as it was intended in some spaces. But its origin is aligned in that awakened unity love space. So what I wanted to say about this soul's awakening as I interpret it, or the spiritual awakening as I interpret it, is it's the identification that there is a guide and a journeyman, a teacher and a student within your soul. A guide and a guided aspect of your soul self. That there are two parts of the self. Or at least let's go with it for this analogy. The guide and the guided. And what it makes me think of, and yes, I am dating myself here, and honestly I don't care, which also dates myself. because at a certain age, you just don't care anymore. But when I was in high school and I was playing this game that was newly out, and I was going to ask if you knew what it was, but honestly, it's back just because, again, that's how old I am. What's old is now new again. It's that we've taken that, amount of time to come back. But anyway, it was the video game, The Legends of Zelda, which I totally loved. And if you loved it too, let me know. We can connect over being nerds. But and I even had a friend in college who, not Legends of Zelda, but played Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Do you remember that? The first one before the movie. And which was also like an awesome game. But my roommate stayed home for a week from college just to like beat this game. A whole nother level of commitment that I'm just not, I've never had. But I remember when I was trying to win in high school, I was trying to win this game Zelda, beat the game Zelda. And I'd gotten super close. And when you're at that space, you're just playing nonstop. You're playing and playing and failing and failing and playing and failing and playing and playing. And okay, to say this, ever since I was little, my dreams were super important to me. They were my connection to the spiritual side, my initial connection to the idea that there is a guide and a guided. Because some of my dreams would actually resonate in reality in day-to-day life. Some of them were actually premonitory, and that's a very specific feeling of a dream. And then there were others that were just kind of reprocessing and showing me a new perspective on my daily life, which was also super informative for me. So I use my dreams a lot, and they're precious to me. So when I was playing Legends of Zelda, and I had been in that state of playing and playing and failing and playing and playing and failing, and I had kind of, obsession, essentially. And I'd gone to sleep that night, and I will never forget this. I woke up the next morning and realized that I had dreamt in a video game, and I was like, I was so freaked out. I was completely freaked out by it that I stopped playing. I stopped playing altogether. I was like, nope, I don't want it. I don't want that. And I felt like it was poison in my brain, but that experience had me think about this guide and explore, the guide and the guided. Like the person, that aspect of ourselves that's going from level to level, meeting challenge and the next challenge, and reorganizing in your brain, how am I going to meet that challenge again so that I can finally overcome it? And then there's the person who's holding the, old school joysticks or the controller, and moving that avatar, that person, that, whatever you call it in video game language, through the levels, through the course, through this particular game. Like sometimes we can get so engrossed in life, just like in a video game, that we're stuck looking at the one tree in front of us without seeing the forest around us. We're just stuck in that game, like we're one with the game. And the game, being one with the game, makes us forget that we are the student and the teacher, the guide and the guided. There's a part of ourselves that said, this is the game you're playing this lifetime. These are the lessons you're learning. These are your opportunities to level up. We forget about that controller person who has the map, who has the guide, who has signed us up for all of this, and who is us. It's our massive connection back to source. It's our godlike self. I mean, whether you believe this or not, it sure is an interesting perspective and tool, if you choose it to be, on how to progress through challenges in this lifetime. Every challenge is coming to serve a higher purpose. And that higher purpose is universal consciousness, universal connection, and the release of all pain and suffering. And that's how I feel like this video game analogy applies to life. Some of us get so stuck in this 3D world that it becomes a gross distraction from our soul's goal, its mission, its essence. The goals of our souls are rooted in our desires, our yearnings, our affiliations, those that we have from birth. Basically part of our chemical makeup, our DNA. Like, what turns us on? Those affinities, those desires, they lead us towards goals. Now in yoga, we say that the desires are the root of all suffering because they pull you away from that source energy. And I believe that's the second version of the purpose of desires. Because if I didn't desire to yearn and know more, I would have never found yoga. But when I find yoga, I realize now, okay, I found the next level on the map. Time to release the first level. Right? Which was that desire. Those desires and goals and affinities are like posts or mile markers on our journey. Then there's our mission. So the goals are not the mission, and they shouldn't be confused with it, which I often do, not gonna lie. It's very easy to do. But especially in this world, this 3D world, where it's like our goals and our missions seem to be these instant gratification of our goals, right? They seem to coincide or meld with the mission. But like, how many times have you reached your goal? And then, first you were like, yes, I did it. Awesome. And then a moment after you're like, okay, great. Now what? Because that wasn't the mission. It was a goal. It was a signpost along the mission, along the path. The mission of your soul can be felt when you feel in flow, or what I call in flow. And what I call in flow is really just being in synchronicity with the world around you, being open and aware to it. The signs and the guideposts that are saying, nope, you're off mission, you're off course right now. And those come externally and internally. But when you're in flow, it feels like all you have to do is think and the answer arrives physically. I'm a person who sees angel numbers, and I've been seeing them a lot lately. And if you don't know what angel numbers are, simplified, they're repeated numbers that you see often and often, to the point where you feel like somebody's playing a trick on you, where you're like, oh my God, I'm seeing this number over and over and over. So typically they're like 111 or 222 or 444, that kind of thing. And they have meaning behind them. The numbers have meanings behind them. And lately it's been happening so much to me. Like 555, I'm saying a lot. Every time I look at the clock. 5:55 in the morning, 5:55 at night. Or 11:11. Just saw that one today. And those numbers are kind of a way of communication between dimensions, worlds, time, space. It's a language between barriers. And there are information behind those numbers. I mean, technically, scientifically, we are in a mathematical world. There's science and math all around us, and the repetition of the shape of things, and the Hermetic principle of as above, so below, as below, so above. Or however it's specifically stated or said. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but there is a picture that the James Webb telescope took in infrared of dark matter, and it shows the connection between all things. And if you place that right next to, I believe it's the human brain cell or a nerve cell, they look indistinguishable from each other. As above, so below. But then there's the essence of our soul. So there's the goals, there's the mission, and then there's the essence. Our goals are desires that kind of get us on the path. The mission is the journey, the game that we're playing this lifetime of how our soul is requesting us to level up. And we notice it through our coincidences and awareness of our lives. And then there's the essence of our soul, what our soul is made of, who we really are, who that person with the controller of the video game is. And that is straight up connection. Love. Love is connection. Love is union. All that separates is fear, and fear is an element of an imbalanced ego. So how do you find your desires? How do you find your roadmap? How do you find your guideposts? Because we all have them. I mean, when we're kids, we liked something, right? I mean, we're so much more connected to source when we're kids. And the tiniest things can bring us joy. They don't have to be huge. They can be simple. It can be simple of just feeling the sun on your face. Smelling your favorite flower. What are the things that bring you joy? What are the things that make you happy? What did you do as a kid? Who did you want to be? Who did you want to become? Why? What brought you joy? Make a list. I don't remember how old I was, or it must have been like kindergarten or first grade or something like that. But we used to go to the library at school and we'd check out our books, and I was so proud of myself, but I was like obsessed with this one shark book. And it was all about sharks, and I loved seeing on that little piece of paper on the checkout thing, I can't remember what it's called, but my name, the date, my name, the date, my name, the date. And then one time I went in, and I don't know if I've talked about this before or not, but I don't know whose name, but it was somebody else's name. And I remember getting that thing and looking around like, who is it? Who is this person who checked out my book? I was determined to figure out who they are in this school, and that was my book that I checked out, you know? So ridiculous. But, then I didn't care enough to remember their name because I forgot. But point is, I never checked out that book again. Anyway. But I don't know if it was specifically that the sharks that I loved so much, or that it was like I was the only one checking out that book that I loved so much. But it was about the history of shark, the type of shark, that they were one of the oldest animals on the earth. And I found that so interesting. I also checked out a lot of anatomy books. I loved those. I wanted to learn all about the human body, and I thought I'd be a doctor, and I wanted to help. I thought I'd be a pediatrician. I wanted to help kids. I wanted to help people, and I wanted to help kids. And then I thought, oh, wait, no, but I also want to be a lawyer because I really hate injustice and I love arguing, And then I realized I could just act like one, be on TV or something, or in plays, because I really didn't like school that much. But that was my first love: art, acting, writing, creating, dancing, singing, anything through creative expression. Drawing, it was the first thing I ever did. And I also love to figure out why people were the way they were. What is this story of humanity? How could I connect with and create from it? My son recently said to me, Mom, I bet you were a straight A student. And it took a lot. I'm not going to lie. It took a lot for me to hold a straight face when he said that, because there could have been nothing further from the truth. But of course I said, oh, well, I'm so glad you think that. But I didn't lie to him, and I didn't tell him it was correct because he's not. But, you know, my guide self as a kid set me up with a lot of challenges and struggles, internally, externally, and environmentally. Now, relative, very relative. You know, my upbringing was a lot better than some and worse than others. But I rebelled against all of my struggles. I felt massively unseen, unheard, unknown, which created a lot of anger and rebellion. And I've carried it with me most of my life. There are parts of that anger and rebellion that help me create, which I'm appreciative for. There's parts of that rebellion that help me be more empathetic to others when I feel or see that they may feel the same sort of thing, and I'm very appreciative for that. And it was only into my 20s when I actually found yoga, and I found it on my own, and I explored it on my own for a while, you know, before I met my teacher and truly studied. I became a vegetarian, pescatarian. I released some anger through all those things. And I released some rebellion. But in a way, their vegetarian, pescatarian was a little bit of a rebellion, because I grew up in Chicago, and it was like, and I was living in Chicago, and there was, in the Midwest in general, but man, like everything had meat in it. So it was like I guess that was part of the rebellion. But then I was introduced to my yoga teacher in my late 20s, and there was a new decade ahead of me, and I was shown through her a new kind of unconditional love, and more of my anger and rebellion released. So my guide had placed me on my path to learn and to struggle. And if I hadn't struggled, I wouldn't have learned, or I wouldn't have yearned to learn. That internal pain and struggle recognizes others' internal pain and struggle. And as I look back on every decade of my life, I know and I see that I've let a little more go. Each decade, I dug a little deeper into the jungle of my spiritual path, and I let another layer of people-pleasing go. I embraced my soul's journey with a little more guidance and a little more clarity from my mission. There's always a layer to peel. Like my teacher's father would say about life, that it's like an onion, or the spiritual path is like an onion. The layers are very thin. There are so many. And they may just make you cry. So looking back at this year, as I'm getting a little closer to another decade, another kind of what I call massive unraveling or unraveling. It's an unraveling, an analogy back to the video game, an unraveling of or disconnection from the video game, and a more deeper reconnection to the controller or to the guide. And its request for my journey this lifetime. couple of years ago, I gave up drinking, and I'm not saying that just to, hey, awesome, me. But it's just that I noticed that it's part of this unraveling. And that I've revisited the idea of letting, alcohol go almost every decade since my 20s, since I was legally able to drink, right? But this time it just feels more in alignment. It feels more solid. And like the release of drinking for me personally was a chord or chorded to my people pleasing, or the people pleasing aspect of me. Because it was a lot of what are other people going to think of me? They're going to be bored. It was all about what other people thought, honestly. Because I love my sober self. I feel good about myself in the morning. I feel good about myself, in general. And I feel empowered and not shameful for choosing to not people please. Now, granted, maybe that's part of my rebellion. I don't know. But how I look at it and how I recognize it is that I'm coming up to another decade, and it's just more layers being released. I'm just getting closer. As we get closer, we start so close to source as babies, and before we pass on to another realm, we get closer and closer to source. So I'm just really getting closer to digging into my freak flag and letting it fly, and it feels good. Yes, it feels awkward at times, and yes, it feels weird, and yes, I'm sometimes maybe trying to hide in the cracks because I'm amongst people who I don't feel will understand the true colors of my freak flag, but it's not out of shame. It's more out of A, I don't have the energy to explain it, and B, I really don't think they care to learn, and that's okay. That's totally okay. I started this podcast. I did several workshops with women, tapping into their reconnection with creativity and intuition, workshops with children, using crafting as a source for empowerment and inspiration. I've done readings, which I love, because to me they echo what my soul was, all of this echoes what my soul was searching for as a little kid. The readings, there's no BS. And all this stuff has positioned me to help me with those pain points I had as a kid, to be seen, to be heard, to be known. And when we connect on a soul level, as a people, our souls are just fucking beautiful. Pardon my French. Some of us have a lot of stuff to climb in this life, a lot of challenges. But they're all to make us stronger and our lights brighter. I had a friend who once said to me that life is a series of challenges and celebrations, and all the little moments in between. So as I look back on the challenges I've had this year and the struggles, there have been a lot. But right now I'm feeling kind of a sense of celebration and an opportunity for celebration. I'm breathing. I have a beautiful family. I have wonderful people around me. I have a passion in my heart, curiosity in my mind. I feel purposeful and purpose-filled. I'm proud of what I'm building. I'm grateful to all of you who've supported me listening to this podcast, having readings, doing workshops, sharing. It means the world to me. But no soul contract is without struggle. No soul's journey is without struggle. So what do you do when you are in a struggle, when you're in a time of challenge? I mean, sometimes we're so in the midst of a challenge or a struggle that it's really hard to get a clear perspective. It's like you need a new prescription, because you're going through the muck and you can't see clearly, but like it's a weekend and LensCrafters is closed. So you have to wait the weekend till Monday when LensCrafters open and you can change in your prescription. So sometimes we're in that space of the challenge and we aren't able to do anything about it at that moment, and that's okay. Sometimes you just need to be in that space. We can't always be planting and we can't always be harvesting. There is a space and time in between that we're just nurturing and watching and waiting and going through the process together. There needs that time to marinate and grow and go about the process. But when you finally get to LensCrafters and they're open and it's Monday and you can actually change your prescription, here are some things that I find helpful. Play. Play every day. And what does that mean? I don't mean like you're a kid and you're playing with Barbie dolls or like G.I. Joe or whatever it is. But what I mean is, what brings you joy? Make a list. You run out of joy, make a list of the things that bring you joy. We get so stuck looking at the tree in the forest of our lives that we forget that there is joy out there. And we're so involved with the task at hand. Make a list of yourself, for yourself, of things that make you happy and bring you joy. What makes you smile? Just a big ass list, put it on your phone, keep it in your wallet. And then do something that brings you joy every day. For me, it's getting outside. I love getting outside. Exercise brings me joy. Depending on the exercise, let's be clear. Hugging and snuggling my kids, that brings me joy. Singing brings me joy. Dancing brings me joy. These are all things you can do, You can do it in your car. You can do it when no one's watching. You can do it when people are watching. Just challenge yourself to say, like, who cares? What do they think? I mean, honestly, as long as it's appropriate, and please don't go get arrested or something. But, what brings you joy? Just do it. The next thing that I'm going to offer you, if you choose to accept it. No, I have one more thing. Okay, so this is also part of the play thing. I went to an aerial yoga class the other day. I had an hour and I was going to just try and do something, and I saw that there was a class nearby and I've always wanted to try it. So I was like, oh, I'll go now. Now, it was an intermediate class. I did not know that until afterwards, but I definitely felt it for sure during. And, okay, man, I could have done some major mental gymnastics on myself in that class as a person who likes to do yoga and who is slightly competitive and who is active. I'm not at my tip-top shape right now, but I can hold my own. But I was so awkward. It was so awkward. The woman was standing and flipping around and wrapping the silk all over her legs and flipping down it was like Cirque du Soleil. Okay, I'm watching her and she's doing it so fluidly, and I thought, oh, it's me so easy. And then I stood up on my silk and I could get I'm talking maybe half a leg around that silk situation, and it, in my mind, I was this sexy, fluid language. I was not fluid or sexy. It was sweaty. I couldn't get I was several attempts I was grunting, and that's not ever sexy. And so, but I kept up. I held my own, and I didn't do everything. There was a couple times that I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that today. Right? I'll try that another day. But in the past, I could have just been sitting there doing mental gymnastics around failure and inability and my body not being where I want it to be and all that business, right? But afterwards, and yes, there's probably a little bit of my competitive spirit that's coming in here, but afterwards I was like, I'm going to do that again. And I'm going to prove to myself I can do it. you know? But like, you know, at a base level, the appropriate level, so I don't feel like so horrible. But, you know, and yes, I have been obsessing over it a little bit because I have to say, this is the point of it. It brought me so much joy. I failed hard, not completely, but hard. And I loved it. I loved it. I was playing. I played. And it was fun. And it brought me new life and new energy and excitement. I was curious about something and I played. Stay curious, play. That's my favorite saying. Don't get stuck. Keep playing. So the next thing I was going to offer you was when you come up with challenges, or what can you do in the meantime so that you can hold strong during them. And this one is a hard one for me, but it does work, and I do love it when I do it. But have a little secret for yourself. Have a little secret, a little joyful secret. And this secret can be that playful thing, like my aerial yoga. Just don't tell anyone. Just keep it inside. Like, hey, I did that, and I'm not telling you. But it's like it changes the energy internally. Like your soul is like, I played today, you know, and is excited. I mean, even just thinking of it now, it's like I get these little excited butterflies in my heart that just radiate. They radiate and they shift the energy around you. So keep a little secret for yourself. Something that's obviously not going to harm anyone or you, but something that brings you joy. And let it just be for you. I mean, I'm going to admit this is a hard one for me because I like to tell everybody everything, but it is important. And when I do it, it's so good. So as we enter the end of the year here, there are two more things I wanted to say. But you can't reap and sow at the same time. So looking back at this year, what seeds did you plant? What harvest did you reap? What accomplishments have you made? Look at the beautiful opportunity of another year ahead of us and decide what you want to plant. What do you want to cultivate? I promise to return to the kite analogy and the visual of this week's visual message or spiritual message. And I heard this story the other day, and it is, I believe, from the Mahabharata, and it's a story about Arjuna, who is the student, and Krishna, who is the teacher, the God. And for those of you who don't know, this is part of Hindu religion or mythology. And if I do mess this up and you know the story better, please reach out to me. I'm happy to be corrected and correct it. So as I recall it, the story goes, Arjuna, student of Krishna, they're together and they're flying a kite together. And the subject of why this story came up was on the topic of freedom. But Arjuna says to Krishna, he sees the kite flying high, and he says to Krishna, you know, Krishna, I believe that string is holding the kite back to fly as high as it possibly can. It's holding the kite back from its full potential. If we let the string go, if we cut the string, the kite could fly as high as it possibly could, maybe even higher. And Krishna said, okay, cut the string. Let's let it go. So he did. And the kite went higher and higher. And then it fell straight to the ground. And that talk was about freedom. And that true freedom isn't having no guidance or no path or no journey, no destination. But true freedom is finding the freedom within the structure. that with the kite, that groundingness of the cord and someone to help guide it, allowed it to continue to fly and be free. So back to that picture and the image, the freedom to enjoy the space you create in your mind, or the magical place that you want to create around you, or the life that you live, requires an anchoring. To allow yourself to elevate your perspective, to shift your appreciation to all that you've done and all that you're doing and all that you will do. The kite string is your roadmap this lifetime. Complete freedom from it leaves you aimless. Finding the freedom within it may just bring you a newfound sense of joy. That is the intuitive universal message that I wanted to share. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday, rest of the year. Happy New Year. And I will see you again in 2024. If you are looking for a personalized reading for yourself, you can find me at Magnetize Your Light. Or if any of these tools or experiences that I shared today resonated with you, or you have new and interesting ideas to add, I'd love to hear your insights, and I'd love to connect with you. You can connect with me on Instagram at Magnetize Your Light, or email me at info@magnetizeyourlight.com. As always, if you like and subscribe and share, that really helps this grow. And if you like the message, keep sharing it, keep sending it out there, keep lighting each other up. Have a wonderful new year. Big buckets of love. Talk to you soon. All right, that is the message. I want to thank you all for joining me this year. This has been a fun ride that I've taken in this little platform of exploring the intuitive universal messages that come through readings. If you like this podcast, I would so appreciate you subscribing or liking it wherever you get the podcast. Every little bit helps, you know. And if you're looking for a deeper connection, maybe even a personalized message of your own, you can find me at magnetizeyourlight.com. Underneath my offerings, you'll find intuitive readings there, my empowerment courses. And I am very excited about our monthly meditation meetup. It's a place where we get together, explore creatively and intuitively, and we share. And that sharing is what I call vulnerability is our superpower. It empowers us personally and in the community. It's a nice, safe space to be. So if you have any questions about that, you can email me at info@magnetizeyourlight. Otherwise, I look forward to connecting with you on Instagram at magnetizeyourlight, or here, or wherever you're listening to this podcast. I hope you have a wonderful end of the year. and a super fruitful 2024. Namaste. Talk soon.